All right. Well, hey, part two. Patsy, part two.
Part two, Bobby, of the Deformative. Patsy Ramsey. No. Definitive.
Yeah, that's it.
Patsy Ramsey portrait, psychoanalysis, the ultimate clash of geniuses painting a new color, like stained glass windows, fucking each other in a brand new type of church.
Jesus Christ.
We are doing something incredible and holy in our shining nights through the darkness of this mystery that honestly has cursed our countries.
Did she do it?
Think about it. Would 9/11 have happened if JonBenét had not been killed?
Yes.
It's like a butterfly effect. It's like a
sure.
it's like a roly-poly effect.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Lockheed Martin was involved. We'll see. I know. That's what we're going to explore here. All right. So Patsy part two. Did she do it?
Buckle up, everybody. We're going to find out by the end of this part things that have never been known in the history of those mysteries.
Of this mystery.
And I mean it. I mean it. You know?
Like it.
Go ahead and listen.
Well, let's not waste any more time. All right.
Go.
Well, I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
And I'm Teddy Ronald Reagan Dismurgia.
And this is
JonBenét today.
What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's blonde. 6 years old. How long ago was this? I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's gone. Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please. Okay, please, there's somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath, please. Okay? Hurry. Patsy.
When we had last left Patsy, she was in remission from ovarian cancer.
Oh, yeah,
And,
that's the one that
she'd been visited by John's daughter, who'd cured it, yeah. And, things were looking okay, except for, maybe a little trouble in the marriage. But John's not really there. He's absent. But now we have December 26th, as we're all very well aware of, that morning.
Mm-hmm. December 26th. It's the day that the Rugrats debuted the Kwanzaa special with Susie and her family celebrating Kwanzaa.
Sure, I don't know why you know that, but that's not what we're here for.
No. Yeah.
It's when they found, that's where the 911
The
call.
subject of this series. I remember
Yes.
that. Okay.
Donna, you weren't here when we did our 911 episode, but...
No, I don't think she's watched it because she said her favorite episode was the first episode because she's a
Oh my
liar.
God,
well,
Teddy.
that was in there.
Jesus.
That was in there.
Everybody,
Okay.
count how many times Donna says anything useful in this episode, and then please send it in the mail to us. We will give you.
Thanks a lot,
something.
Teddy.
She's not here to say something useful. She's here to help us look stuff up and, get a female
Right.
perspective.
Every
Right.
time she's here, I steal her scrunchie, and the first three people.
I noticed that.
Well, listen.
Stop stealing stuff.
I'm not stealing it
I didn't know it
necessarily.
was you.
It's a gift for
The
our
bowl
fans.
collection is
Join the
officially going on.
Patreons. Join the Patreons for JonBenét today. You're gonna get a scrunchie from what's her name's and other surprises.
That's not true. Teddy's not allowed
Special
anywhere
phone
near like 100 feet of a post office, so that's not.
I can make phone calls in the
I'm
middle
not
of the
sending
night to our
her
fans.
scrunchies for her.
Sometimes people want to have a phone call at 3 a.m. of heavy
How are you going to get them
labor
the
breathing.
scrunchie?
I'm gonna say, hey, where do you live?
Okay, people want to know about the 911.
I'm gonna drive it over to you. Can you give me a rental car? Well, let's talking. Okay, let's go back. We're going back to December 26th when Patsy Ramsey called the police. She called 911, and she
said
said
there's kidnapping.
She said there's a note, and my daughter's missing. A note, and your daughter's missing.
You know what? That actually makes, now that we're talking about it out loud, it makes it sound like she didn't even want to say ransom note. Like she didn't even understand what the situation was. Just my daughter's gone. There's a note. And it's a thing, and she's like, it just says, just say who took her, and she's like, oh, well, you got through the 3 pages where it just says victory, SBTC. Like, she wanted somebody else to suppose. That sounds like a ransom. Like, this is a kidnap. Like,
a month after the movie Ransom comes out in theaters.
You know what the fucking say. Yeah, because you know how ridiculous that sounds. I mean, if you even say the words ransom.
Once a John Grisham fan, always a John Grisham fan, you are in a delusional mindset where you think that your voice and you matters. You have no real power. Yeah. But they lord it over the family, and sometimes they abuse them.
Right.
And sometimes there was abuse in this house too. But on this night, there was.
It was a morning, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was a note, and that's what
a note and my daughter missing. But a note said first too, Bobby.
Yeah.
She said, "There's a note and my daughter's missing." A note and your daughter's missing. Not my daughter's missing and there's a note. It's drawing focus to and attention already and immediately to the presence of a note. And then really quickly, I just want to say, because while I heard this whole video the first time complete together today, which is amazing to think about since we're on episode 12, that she said, she brought up that SBTC thing, right?
Yes.
At the end. Almost like she hadn't really read it, but she saw it at the end. But it's almost like also, if you wanted to hide something that was probably, let's say almost a stupid mistake, because like you may have used a piece of paper that already had the Southern Bell Telephone Company's initials written down, like you had to remind yourself to contact them at some point, but you were already on page 2.5 of whatever. If you brought that up as like, and had a public record of your confusion at what that could possibly mean, it almost then pivots you, if one were to think about it in a chess kind of way. I'm not Russian, but I will say that like, it's almost an easy way to go, wow, how can I just throw that away? Because what they do is they try to change where our attention is directed on what clues and some things they don't want us to talk about. And it's almost like because of that, I go, oh, she doesn't know what that means. But also she probably really knows, shit.
She's very confused. And we're going to see a lot of that in this episode. And a lot of these clips, what it's going to be is like Patsy, like, you know, she always takes stuff in a different direction than what it seems like. So what we're going to be looking at in this episode mostly is the ransom note, because this is a very important part, because for years and years, since 1996, Patsy's been under scrutiny for writing the note, possibly. And we're going to look at why. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Like she's the only one in the family that could not be ruled out as being a writer of the note. So we're really going to we're going to explore a lot of the reasons of why it very well could be Patsy that wrote.
Is that because she has a lazy eye or something, and the stuff drifts like at an angle, like a Tokyo drift? It's a scrutiny of the bounty when you think of it, where there have been so many different ways that people have been able to dismiss people. The fact that she could never be dismissed speaks volumes, and I want everybody to really think about that. For the last 30 years, Patsy Ramsey could never truly be ruled out when it came to who authored the ransom letter.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
You think it's interesting, Donna?
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting that her reaction on the 911 call was almost as though she already knew.
What do you mean, knew what?
That JonBenét, that something happened to her.
She did. Well, she knew. Well, that's why she was trying to paint a picture for her. Like Teddy is saying, like, she said, my daughter's missing, and there's a note.
Well,
almost in the way of like, can you paint this picture for me?
Right, you don't know anything else.
Oh, kidnapping, you said that, not me.
Yeah. It's like, she's talking about kidnapping, but it's like almost, if you think about like the peanut butter and jelly of the underlayers, it's like, she's saying it with the not, like, you can hear how there could be someone in a position where they already know their daughter's dead, and they got themselves ready to make this performance in this kind of call.
It's like an overreaction.
Mm-hmm. It's calculated, and because it's not truly 100%, 1000% genuine or genuine, right, that pony, you can tell when you start to just put the stained glass windows on top of each other and let them watch them fuck the light.
Something's not right.
What have we done?
This weird ransom note, we did it in episode 3 and 4, because we had the Biden one, and if you want to go listen to that, but I'm going to put some clips in there of it, of the note.
The ransom note is what makes this case so distinctly different.
Absolutely. It's so important.
It's the longest ransom note in the history of America.
Yep.
Amelia Earhart couldn't even write this thing, let alone Helen Keller, that fucking fraud. Don't even get me started on Stevie Wonder.
How many pages are we talking here?
It was like 5 pages.
No, it wasn't. It was 2.5. Teddy's was like 8.
College rule?
2.5 pages.
2.5 pages, yes.
Single space.
It's again, it is like Teddy was saying, the longest note. And
big words.
We'll have it up.
Big words. They use things like a foreign, what they say?
Foreign faction. Small foreign faction.
Small foreign faction. And I'm like, when I think of that, I think it's some kind of like Rachel Ray recipe.
And exclamation points and numerous movie references. So here's a little rundown of those compared to passages from the ransom note.
Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter.
If you deviate from our instructions in any way whatsoever, she will be killed.
If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies.
If you talk to anyone, I don't care if it's a Pekingese pissing against a lamppost.
Don't try to grow a brain, John.
Do not attempt to grow a brain.
Oh, those were, we already did.
I mean, what is this, Hollywood Squares? What? This serial killer, rapist, whatever, letter writer.
Or mother.
Or mother.
Who's seen too many movies.
She or he or they.
Yeah, or they.
You're looking a little pale.
I'm all right.
You're looking a little pale.
I just hit the little pen thingy and it went down the wrong pipe. Anyway, keep going. This whoever wrote the note.
Whoever wrote this ransom note
has seen a lot of movies, as pointed out by Miss Patsy herself.
Well, there's obviously a couple of references, I think, to something that people think came from a couple of movies, which would lend one to think that it might be maybe a younger person who watches a lot of movies.
Is that what it makes you think?
Don't you wish you were young?
I mean, when you hear Patsy say, you kind of think like, oh yeah, you're right.
No, I don't even think that.
Well,
this is one of those things where, again, she goes down a path that, like, no. She's just wanting to make you, she's supposing
when were
something.
movies invented, Donna?
When were movies?
When did the first movie come out? Patsy Ramsey.
She's looking up.
Oh, yeah. Hang on, Teddy.
Keep going.
Well, I'm just saying that Patsy Ramsey's of a generation where, like, when she went to the movies as a kid, they only played the movie like once in every 7 years. You know, she saw Mary Poppins, and it didn't quite pop for,
it's
until
not
she
like
saw it the second time 10 years
they
later.
got 20 screens. It was just the one.
That's right. And it's something where there is a trend in younger generations in the 90s for young people to watch movies. Patsy Ramsey never saw Jurassic Park.
That's not true.
John Ramsey.
They had a movie theater room. This is not true. Patsy, she liked movies and stuff. That was the thing where
a movie theater room.
They had their own theater room. This is like the one where you haven't really seen. But yeah, they have it because you see it in Patsy's deposition, which I'll put the little things of it up. But also, this adds to their marriage kind of thing, where it's a thing of they ask what kind of movies they'd watch up there, and Patsy for some reason goes to say, I don't know. It was always something like John always got something that I didn't really care to watch. So.
The following is taken from the Boulder Police interview transcript with Patsy Ramsey, April 30th, 1997.
Okay. Do you get to the movies at all? Have you been out to see any shows at all?
Oh, I have.
I know it's difficult in the last couple of months.
Right.
Because of what's...
Right.
Let's say before December. What kind of movies have you and John gone out to see?
Well, actually, we didn't go out to the movies very much because we had a home theater.
Okay.
So we'd see everything about a year after it came out.
Once it came out on video?
Yeah, but the kids liked watching movies up there.
Uh-huh.
We watched Forrest Gump and...
Do you and John watch movies at all up there?
Yeah, but I usually fall asleep. He usually gets the movies, and they're not my favorite, and I usually fall asleep.
I would normally end up falling asleep. Kind of big.
Didn't they have posters?
And they had posters in the basement.
What were on the posters? What were those movies?
Those were movies like
Officer and a Gentleman,
Chinatown.
Star Trek.
Okay.
I don't think Chinatown was.
Was it L.A. The Confidential? Maybe.
No, it was Officer and a Gentleman, Star Trek. There was a few other. There might have been Chinatown. We'll have a picture of the poster.
And they like movies.
Yeah, and there's also we had John saying that we're not we're not movie people.
Okay.
But we've been told that there's a lot of movie talk in here. This person liked movies. They may have seen the movie Ransom, which was playing in Boulder.
John? The movie Ransom was playing in Boulder.
I have your son.
Oh, Jesus!
I want $2 million.
Oh, God!
In that particular movie, a fat cat industrialist, his son was kidnapped. There's a lot of the same verbiage in this note as was in even the note that was written in that particular movie.
Have you ever seen the movie Ransom?
No, I haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been told that it's very similar. apparently there's Clint Eastwood movie lines in this thing. We don't watch the movies that much.
So now we got Patsy supposing, it's probably a younger kid.
A younger person.
And then
who
we got
watches
John
movies.
saying, we're not even movie people, where it's like, motherfucker, you got a theater room, you got movie posters downstairs.
I mean, seriously, listen to what the words Bobby's saying right now. How many people got a movie theater room in their house, and then after their daughter dies, in the same basement that movie theater room existed and the movie posters do, that they then go on to tell people, we're not
movie people. Because the Ransom note,
we don't watch movies.
It's got a lot of, because it's an unconscious thing, I'm sure. But it's also, it's like, also, John, what did you get for Christmas that year? You got a copy of Animal House. Because he loves that movie.
Oh my God.
So you don't like movies, but, I like certain movies, but we're not movie people. But, go fuck yourself.
It reminds him of his years at his frat, watching people get sexually assaulted and nothing being done about it.
Right. But, John's, probably still living that frat life,
You never can leave.
He's never home, And so, aside from another huge, entertainment kind of reference that we're going to get to here near the end of this.
And we're not talking about Pat O'Brien.
No. There is a lot of there's a lot of weird language in there that we have discussed before that would suggest it's kind of more of a maternal language, and also there's a couple interesting things in here.
Maternal language.
Are you surprised that there are no swear words in there? I mean, if there is a huge degree of hatred for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
No, that is surprising. Nor is JonBenét's name mentioned. All they say is, we have your daughter. They don't say we have JonBenét.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, if it's someone that did not know us well enough to know what her name was.
Did you just see what John Ramsey did with his tongue?
Was that like a weird tick?
It went like left, right, down, up.
Right. And then so it's the thing of it's when you watch that actual clip of it, you see Patsy kind of looking at it and also realizing oh God, fuck, I guess I did do that. If she did it allegedly.
If she did it allegedly, rest in peace,
allegedly,
somebody.
But also how it addresses it doesn't address her, but the fucking practice note that the police found. Remember,
oh, that's right.
The main difference between the practice notes here is that it starts with the practice note starts with Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey.
Okay.
This note starts with Mr. Ramsey. Patsy's been removed from it. That's the difference between the practice note and the actual ransom note.
Interesting. There is a different beginning.
And she's a person writing it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get. I mean, my big theory on that is I consider it as a thing of if you are to consider what Rogers Powers had talked about in the extended episode that you can see, that if the intention was to get John out of the house with that note, you couldn't do that by addressing the note as Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey. It'd be a thing where the John would be like, well, you go out of the house. Or whatever, kind of thing. So it does change. That's it's interesting.
Also, along with the fact that the ransom amount was the same amount as his previous year's Christmas bonus from work.
Yeah, but I don't think that's that.
But that's something where who would know that one foremost. And if you only had John being referenced, and then you had something that referenced something of his work, whether he knew it or not, but it could be still something in hindsight when everything is looked at.
Or biblical.
It would or biblical.
She was very
biblical. She donated all of her underwear to Goodwill.
Jesus Christ.
People need Patsy Ramsey underwear.
But it's like, what intruder is gonna start a note? And then your thing is that actually, never mind. I don't want to address her. And that's the only thing you're gonna change. So it's like, I will start it. Where it's like,
God.
Why? That's why the intruder theory really doesn't make sense.
That's the
why are you
only
getting there no? Why, yeah, it's not like you wrote something wrong. Or
it's not like they wrote 2 of the 3 pages.
No, I don't want to do Miss Ramsey.
All they wrote was Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey or whatever.
That's it.
And then they stopped, and then he did another draft, and then they just put it in the trash can, and it was all in her papers.
Like the other guy there was like, no, come on, we're not gonna do the wife. Come on, leave her out of it.
It's almost like there was something wrong. Something happened.
I think that the intruder had a new theory, and that was that they felt pity for Patsy.
Yeah, maybe they knew her, and they're like, oh, she had ovarian cancer.
Like,
or maybe Patsy, wanted to change up the script, but.
And there's, you'll find out later, there's a history of scripts with Patsy.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you listen to a thing, she does pageants. She loved a certain play.
She can memorize things. She likes to be presented in front of people, and she likes to perform.
Right. So, you know, and then, so we have, you know, the thing that it's the weird language in it. It's very maternal, where it's, you know, it's kind of rest up, John.
They never say, fuck you, you stupid fucking bitch. I'm
Make
going to
sure you
fucking
get
kill
your-
you
yes.
and your daughter, JonBenét, because they never even say JonBenét's name either.
Right. And then, so there's a thing also where it's like people have analyzed, you know, how there's a lot of exclamation points to it, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, so here's we're going to, as we get into the handwriting of it too, I want to throw one more little wrench in that, but here we go.
Foster analyzed commonly used words and also found similarities between Patsy's letter format and that of the ransom note writers. The indentations and punctuation, especially the repeated use of the exclamation point. We looked back through our own archives and found 2 samples of Patsy's writing. This 1996 Christmas letter peppered with exclamation points, and this 1978 photo with a 2-line note, each sentence ending in an exclamation point. Also, sources say as many as 250 books were cataloged and photographed from various rooms in the Ramsey house. In the event, they yielded possible clues. At least one book found in the bedroom did. Mindhunter by FBI profiler John Douglas. In Chapter 16, there is a case of a young girl who was kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and suffocated with duct tape. When the killer called the mother, he began with the words, "Listen carefully." The same 2 words begin the ransom note.
Wow.
Mindhunter, David Fincher, Mindhunter.
Yeah. And, you know, again, does that name sound familiar, guys?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
this
like,
is an
who
old
is the
report. John Douglas is the guy that John Douglas is the guy that he's the FBI profile that the Ramseys would go on to hire to profile them.
The same John Douglas?
The guy that started the profiling unit of the FBI.
Who wrote the book Mindhunter, which became a Netflix success for 2 seasons.
Good show.
He knows serial killers. He wrote a book. That book was in their bedroom.
They were
and then later
admired. He was
hired him.
admired. Yeah.
To do what again? What was
to
it?
profile them. And John cites it in so many later interviews.
Oh my God.
That, you know, John Douglas, that we even did it in the John episode where you see, he keeps saying John Douglas.
I
you know.
remember that.
Yeah. And so they hired them to do a profile. And, you know, he is a very respected guy. But the, you know, the other experts in his field kind of lost a little respect for him. Where they say, well, he went against his own rules of profiling, where he sat down for a 4-hour interview with both Ramseys. Which is not what you do when you're creating a profile. You need to do them separately. And so whatever they paid John Douglas to, whatever he sold
Money
out
talks,
for,
ladies and gentlemen.
Whatever he sold.
Definitely a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
Definitely a bunch of bullshittery.
It's bullshit.
And shit that pisses me off because it was hidden for so long.
And what a dream for the Ramseys. Hey, this guy where we used to look. And also, your book helped inspire
This
our ransom
best-selling
note.
FBI, you know,
How much money do we got to give you to just interview both of us for 4 hours?
How many zeros? Tell me when to stop.
Exactly, and it's kind of sad. You know, I lost a little bit of respect for him there too. Where
I mean,
I've read his a couple of his books actually, and like it's good.
You should never meet your heroes, Bobby. They're always gonna let you down. Remember that time JonBenét from Three's Company punched me in the mouth. It like went into it hit my uvula.
I don't think it was JonBenét.
Tiny little fist. She was
it does make that story better than it was, because otherwise it's just sad.
It was weird. I mean, I didn't know whether to bite it or, you know, it's weird having someone's arm in your mouth.
Yeah. Well, here we go. I want you guys to meet this guy. His name is Mark Foster, and he's a handwriting expert.
Use of language, grammar, source material, borrowings, political or religious opinions, and anything that might enter into making a piece of writing distinctively one person's or another's, from punctuation to spelling and so on.
The professor once discovered Shakespeare was the author of a centuries-old manuscript, and the FBI hired him to prove Ted Kaczynski wrote the Unabomber Manifesto.
Whoa, that's his credentials. And
that guy, he is legit.
He is legit. So here's him being interviewed on his analysis of the whole situation.
My experience with the Boulder detectives was that they were entirely professional in their work, that they were dedicated to the case.
Have you determined who wrote the ransom note?
I have no comment.
Wow. That is Professor from Vassar College speak of it is Patsy Ramsey.
Exactly.
He fucking knows.
He fucking knows. Yeah, exactly.
I have no comment. He didn't say, I think it's an intruder theory, the intruder. No, he said no comment because
he can't say, and he doesn't want to incriminate himself.
How many times have people, when they tried to go against the story, whether they were in with the attorney general or the district attorney, or whether they were in the Ramsey's own neighborhood, if they didn't go with the peer pressure that everybody else was telling of one story, where you don't go after to the Ramseys. You don't talk, like they were ostracized, and sometimes in some cases it almost seemed like they were punished even more severely.
Mm-hmm. And then also we got the housekeeper too, Linda Pugh.
Oh yeah.
As just like another thing with the note where it's like she has also said specifically that she's heard that Nidra, which is Patsy's mom,
Nidra,
has called them fat cats before since they got rich. And then there's also a point in the note where it says use that good Southern common sense, that she said she's heard Patsy joke to John about that. Because he's anything but Southern.
What?
He's actually from, he was born in like Michigan.
They met in Georgia, but he's from Michigan.
Exactly, but it's still a thing where that would be a joke Patsy would always say to him.
Oh my God.
Interesting as part of the note.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like a thing where, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but it's a thing of, it's interesting nonetheless.
It's a mean joke.
And that she's also said, the housekeeper said that Patsy loved acronyms. Or like little just initialism kind of shit where she would leave because she would leave notes all over the house for the housekeeper.
She loved
That's
writing
how she loved communicating.
notes. That's why she had the papers of the memo pads that the ransom note was written on in the first place, probably already.
Right.
Interesting.
So and then we also have the fact of like the handwriting, and again, like we talked about, she could never be ruled out. Okay, but here's Patsy denying that it's her.
That are side by side, vertically on the page. The letter D, what looks like the letter S, what looks like letters R and O, what looks like an N, what looks like an O, what looks like an exclamation point, what looks like a G, and what looks like a B. Now I'm going to ask you, Mrs. Ramsey, if you can identify any of these letters as being your handwriting.
No, sir.
She didn't write those letters.
Her. Oh man.
They look like Egyptian hieroglyphics. No, they look like letters, but
Right.
they were very similar. And
Very. Yeah.
You
I
think
didn't
she
know
re-
which was which. I feel like he was trying to trick her too.
Here's her more on that.
And they, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being absolutely no match, I ranked at a 4.5, with 1 being a perfect match. So,
Yeah, we don't know the results of the police testing. We've heard that they're at best inconclusive.
Best.
Inconclusive.
He's not very sure. And Patsy's ambidextrous too.
Ambidextrous.
Oh.
So even
she
having-
could have just written it with her, like whatever other hand she's more confident in.
Oh.
Oh.
Alexis
wow.
Bledell's ambidextrous too.
Because then it would definitely look different, but the same.
And that's the thing. Well, so let's look here now at, one of Patsy's, favorite plays, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And
The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie.
She has used this for all of her, it's her act where she would play, a scene.
She
from
performed a scene from it. She plagiarized it technically.
Oh, and the pageant,
yeah,
right?
and it's it's about this it's about this
West Virginia.
Teacher in the 1930s or whatever at this boarding school who's like she gets all these girls that like the students really look up to her and she teaches them how to be women, but she's kind of a skank in it or whatever. But that main
She's
character,
smoking cigarettes. She's giving them birth control.
The
She's
scene-
showing them how to debone a fish. Yeah.
And the scene though that Patsy would always perform though is a 3-person scene in which the lead character, Miss Brodie, is faced with an accusation of, wrongdoing. And, it's a thing of where...
Wait a minute, Bobby. She does a 3-person scene as her fucking special talent, and she plays all 3 characters?
Yes.
Who
It's
fucking does that?
so fucking unhinged.
How do you think
It's
you're going to
so
be Miss
fucking
America if you're doing like, I'm going to do a fucking
But,
extremely goofy movie beatnik fucking
but
poetry.
it's important to note that, again, this scene she loved this play. So she loved French shit, and we're going to explore some similarities. But here's a scene from the movie in which that main character is facing almost similar accusations.
It's a literary collaboration. 2 separate hands are involved. One of the authors slants her tail consonants in an unorthodox manner, and the other does not. Also, the paper seems somewhat aged.
There's a thing of, and if you look at this letter, it's a thing of try to imagine, starting it with one hand, finishing it with your left hand. Each letter where it's making it trying to be unidentifiable.
Wow.
But not getting rid of those little tiny similarities on, like, you know, on that one half of the letter that still kind of ties to your own, that doesn't exclude you from a handwriting expert, you know?
Being imperfect, being human, where you can't. That's the thing about these experts, the guy from Vasa and everything, is that they have microscopes and shit. They zoom in and they look at like certain things that you can even think about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where it's Patsy did probably better than most people would, but even then, there was
still kind of messed up. And then so here's a little bit more with that scene.
You will not use the excuse of that pathetic, that humorous document to blackmail me.
Wow.
This is a scene Patsy's performed plenty of times.
Patsy Ramsey is she is just like Maggie Gyllenhaal's in that movie.
No, it's not. It's not Maggie, it's Maggie. I almost said Maggie Grace.
Maggie Simpsons.
No, is it Maggie Grace?
What the fuck is her
Maggie?
name?
What is it fucking?
Donna, look it up.
Smith. Thank you.
Maggie
Thank
Smith.
you. Good job.
I
All
never
right.
do anything, huh?
So here's a little bit of the end of that scene there too. If you know, this is how Patsy also dealt with this stuff.
Miss Mackay has made totally unsupported accusations against my name and yours. If she has one authentic shred of evidence, just one, let her bring it forth. Otherwise, if one more word of this outrageous calumny reaches my ears, I shall sue.
Well, she certainly did a lot of litigation.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, she from the South because
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith.
Professor McGonagall.
But Minerva McGonagall, she and Patsy have very similar ways of establishing dominance in a male-driven world, and
that's true.
It's something
where
where
conversation.
She was very much.
Which came
she
first?
was an inspiration to her. Like I
That's
think the
right.
Miss Jean Brodie thing was the thing of, you know,
Patsy Ramsey
beauty,
learned how
truth
not to
above
be
all
her
else.
parents and their tragic things by being Maggie Gyllenhaal's.
Right. And then so another thing that's, you know, very similar is like the contents of this play. You know, it's also like a very much a thing where, you know, a common phrase in it is like Miss Brodie's girls are going to be the creme de la creme, you know, kind of things. And,
French.
Yes. And attaché is also used.
Attaché.
Attaché, even with the accent, she uses it in the ransom. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoever used it uses it in the ransom note, which is kind of, you know, it's been up to debate. I've seen this on the Reddit where people are like, is this common at that time? Would you call it that? Or would you call it an attaché case? Or,
Did they use an accent like you?
and she says adequately sized. So some people speculate like, oh, they wanted to use that fucking suitcase in the basement to transport,
When was
which
the
would be a
last-
thing of maybe getting the body out, as in like, oh, well, the note said to use this adequate size attaché, so we'll just use this suitcase.
We
you know?
used a suitcase. That's why we took it out of our house, not to hide a body that we didn't even get around to.
Maybe, but I don't think so. But
I mean,
anyway,
we're just
but
doing that.
attachés used. Another and there's another mention in this play too is that the specialty of the feast was pineapple cubes with cream.
Shut the fuck up, Bobby.
Wow,
You're talking about
dessert.
goddamn fucking
Because
pineapple.
that is such a weird fucking
What
dessert where
a
it's like, you know, yeah,
coincidence.
she got that there.
You know, she read that fucking play when she was in fucking, you know, when she finally learned how to read in like 11th grade or some shit.
Right.
And she was like, pineapples and cream, that's so dignified and so different. And I'm going to save up and buy a pineapple at Winn-Dixie or some shit, you know, and I'm going to put it in some cream. And oh, look at that. I got cream of oats or some shit. And she fucking,
Yeah, I think she was
taught
very
that
inspired.
fucking tradition to her children. Nobody eats
That
fucking
play is
pineapple
it's like
and
a
cream.
dichotomy.
Not
Is
even
that right?
Hawaiian.
Is
Somebody's
dichotomy right?
favorite.
The right way where I'm saying like it's a thing of like
Dichotomy.
It's a very elegant thing where she's like a very you look up to her, but this is a very flawed character, female character, where it's like a thing of like she sleeps around a lot. She's like messing up a marriage.
It's what a
but
poor
also
person
teaching
thinks
these
a-
girls how to be dignified women. And then like one of her pupils catches her having an affair. And she's the one that writes the note that like to the headmaster that it's like, oh, she's sleeping with this other teacher. And it's years down the line, like 10 years later, she decides to get revenge on her. But it's, you know, she dealt with that. And it's a thing where, you know, again, the girl...
Pivoting.
The girl that wrote the note did use her other hand to do it. And there's a thing of there's misspellings. There's misspellings in the note, which John's even said my wife would never misspell stuff. And one of the things that they spell is, you know, is possession.
The word possession, just like the Sarah McLachlan hit from 1995, possession is a word that is about ghosts. It's about Caspers. Possessing people, poltergeists.
Exactly.
It's about holding a gun. It's a word that we use all the time.
Or
And
having
people
complete
spell.
control.
Donna, can you spell possession? Go.
POSSESSION.
See, even Donna can spell it all right. How is it spelled in the letter, Molly?
It's misspelled. in the
Also,
letter.
when
It-
was the last time this was analyzed?
right fucking now. Shut the fuck up, Donna. Bobby was talking.
No.
Shut up! Ah!
What if they put it in the AI?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
In the eye, that fucking Mormon white supremacist shit.
Possession's misspelled, and it's a thing where one of the characters in the thing, as they're writing the note, wonders aloud, like, oh, how is it spelled? With 2 S's or 1. It's a thing. And
That's a line in the play.
Yes. And so it's a thing where, that's intentionally misspelled almost, and it's a thing that sticks out.
It's a plot point in this play that Patsy Ramsey loved so much, she performed it in the Miss America contest as a schizophrenic fucking person playing 3 people. So this is the thing. It's misspelled in this letter, which is also a letter that's written with maybe 2 different hands, like
with malice intent, and also another thing is in that also that movie version of it too.
Yeah. Miss Brodie, do you know what this is?
It would appear to be a piece of blue paper with writing on it in pencil.
It is, in fact, a letter. It was found by Miss Mackenzie in a library book. She glanced at it, but after the first sentence, she dared not actually read it.
And I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, but it was a thing that Patsy claimed in her interview with the police that when she found the ransom note, she read a few lines and didn't bother reading the rest.
Oh my God.
So this is Patsy's biggest fucking performance right now. That fucking Christmas, or the day after Christmas.
This is everything, her entire life. This is every John Grisham book that she's ever read on a beach that her husband never kissed her at the sunset of. This is every play that she performed where I'm trying to differentiate herself from the commonplace sort of scrubby hillbilly hick that she didn't want to be, and this was a role model of a play that. Not only did she love all of her life, not only did she probably watch the movie all the time, but then it informed how she was going to hide herself.
Mm-hmm. This very obscure.
A woman who always wants to be seen now wants to hide.
You should all see it, I watched it.
Ain't that something? Fuck that movie. We're not watching that movie. But did you guys see what I said? A woman who always wants to be seen now wants to hide. And how does she do? She just takes plot points from the only play she fucking knows. That is about writing letters. Crazy.
And there's a great Reddit post that we'll link to too. That's by Cottonstar about this whole connection with the Miss Jean Brodie thing too.
I love Cottonstar.
Right? I didn't realize that was him. We saved this months ago.
Cottonstar, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you're doing great work.
Yeah, great man.
But it's a thing where he talks about how the Ted Kaczynski connection too, where it's not exactly the same thing. So he says, although not exactly the same, this connection is akin to a line Ted Kaczynski wrote in his published manifesto. You can't eat your cake and have it too. The FBI behavioral unit spotted this rather odd turn of phraseology in a historical document written by Ted Kaczynski many years before. His influence was his mother, who taught him the correct way to say the proverb. Most of us today say, you can't have your cake and eat it too. This piece of forensic linguistics evidence became known as the smoking proverb. This case was solved almost entirely by forensic linguistic analysts, which determined that Ted Kaczynski was indeed the Unabomber. Which sound familiar? That's fucking Mark Foster. We just met him.
That guy. He was the guy who confirmed that the Unabomber wrote his manifestos.
And he's the same guy who has his opinions for some reason that he can't speak of who wrote the fucking note. And it's like this, it's a thing. And like we said before, John said, Patsy writes very neatly. She's a feminine writer. There's misspellings in the note. She graduated at the top of her class. She doesn't misspell words like business and possession.
Possession. Possession, just like a plot point in the play, the prime making a robbery, and also possession. The fact that not everybody can even say this, but I can say it. I have a very extensive history with being possessed, even before Emily Rose.
Currently.
It's one of these things where it might even be why I have one of these boils when I just go, oh my god, oh man!
Why did you touch it?
No, I didn't mean to touch it. Is it in your eye? Is it in your eye? Oh my god! You gotta flush. You gotta wash your eyes right now. Somebody get some apple cider vinegars. Oh my god! I told you I need to wear my mask. No, cut the fucking tape. Cut the tape. Hi, Arthur Rabinowitz here, store manager for Spencer's Gifts, number 22711.
The highest performing store in the district.
And I'm here to let you know that even though the mall's closing, we're still open.
No vaccine required, and honestly preferred.
We're still open. We got all things that you love. We've got sex and wellness toys. You want your pasta to be shaped like a phallus?
Pasta fasciole.
We've got T-shirts that got grapes on them. Oh, you wanna be fixated on death your entire life? Oh, you like Nightmare Before Christmas and can't get a girlfriend? Come on down. Take a listen to the testimonials from our potbelly teenage employees and customers.
I'm just looking. I don't need anything. Please get away from me. Thank you.
I just like to steal stuff. Today I took a fairly odd parent's pin and a titty-shaped mug. It's gonna make a great present for my brother for Easter.
Arthur, fuck off.
Wow, talk about a rave review. Do you still like professional wrestling and amateur wrestling? We've got tons of beach towels that are gonna fall apart after a year that got John Cena's body on them.
Can't see this.
Where else can you go that you can afford reasonably priced items that were made in China that help complement your pursuit of your own self-identity? Arrested Development, that isn't just the name of a hip-hop band from the 90s and a TV show from the 2000s. That's also our clientele. Oh, you looking to get a piercing? We'll do any piercing.
No, Prince Alberts.
Any piercing.
Depends on the dick.
Come on down to Spencer's Gifts. We really need I need you to come. I need you to come here. Spencer's got so many.
Spencer's Gifts, located on the second level of the North Point Falls shopping complex by the Choctaw Casino and Arby's Dome, just a mile down the street from the Starbucks.
How about Sophie's Choice? Oh, and other Meryl Streep characters. We got plenty of them over here at Spencer's Gifts. Please come.
The grand jury spent most of their time focused on two main issues. First, who wrote that ransom note?
We heard from 3 handwriting experts, and even though the handwriting experts couldn't definitively say that she wrote it, they all 3 came to the same conclusion that it could have been Patsy Ramsey.
You can't run away from the note.
Right.
The note is it's a ransom note, but it's not a ran away from some note.
Right. And that was about the grand jury too. They were talking about that was the grand jury that the Ramseys ended up having to face. You know?
Yeah. The grand jury who said that they wanted to indict them.
Right. One of the 2 biggest pieces of evidence was the note.
Yeah.
Are you good now, Donna?
Yeah, I can see out
She's
of one.
fine. She's fine.
I can see out of one eye.
She could only ever see out of one eye. It wasn't because of anything that happened today. It wasn't nothing I did, nothing that Bobby did, maybe.
What are you talking about? Your boil blew up on her face.
Listen, boils blow. Peter Boyle, everybody boils.
It was horrifying.
All right, everybody. Let's not draw attention. I got it. I got to put a Band-Aid on it. It's sopping it up.
So we don't know how you guys as the listeners are feeling so far, but I feel like we've made it pretty obvious so far, that's...
We have been building up a case of the fact that, taking away all the noise, all the tactics that are used by the media strategies of the Ramsey machine. When you put everything together, toe plus toe equals 3. I mean 4. Toe plus toe equals 4.
Unless you're Terrence Howard.
And that's the thing. When we get rid of that we see the flow.
That's a good connection.
I mean, we know.
That's good. That's a good connection.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like they've also, again, there's been so many experts that have looked into this note.
Throughout the ransom note, there's potential that the author attempted to disguise their writing. It doesn't look smooth and fluid. It's very, very shaky. So it looks like someone was purposely trying to shake their hand to alter the way that the writing looks.
Or maybe they just went with the flow of the fact that their hands were already probably pretty shaky and over-exaggerated it for the note.
God, it probably took forever to
They
write.
probably didn't want to make another
at least
mistake.
22 minutes. At least 22 minutes.
22 minutes, 33 minutes, depending on how fast superhuman speed someone can do it.
Yeah, and not counting the practice note that we talked about earlier.
But it definitely faster than they probably weren't at the house while the Ramseys were at the Fleet White House residence the night before. Because some people, when they have the intruder theory, they like to think that the intruder was in the house waiting for them and wrote the letter during then. But you can tell that the handwriting's kind of shaky. And the handwriting is also it's just a case where it looks like it was written pretty quickly.
It does.
It would be more planned if it was going to be part of the kidnapping.
It probably would have already been written.
You would have wrote
it. Probably already written.
What's
before
the thing
you
of
get there.
let's get in the house. We don't know when they're gonna be back, but hey, let's take the time to write this out.
Oh wait! Oh my God, you guys, we're gonna kidnap this girl, but we forgot to tell them that we're gonna kidnap her. What we want. Let's write the ransom letter while we're here.
And also, it's why you start the note and be like, okay, well, instead of Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, actually just John.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird.
And it's so what would be the purpose of the note?
The fact that the offender felt compelled to write this note goes to staging and creating a false motive and trying to deflect the investigation.
McCrary says only in staged situations do you see multiple motives, hoping one will stick.
Oh, I remember that.
Right.
I remember that clip. Man, sometimes hearing these clips again with the new things that we know, I'm seeing and understanding even more of what they're talking about. Yeah. Don't ever fucking interrupt me, Donna. You're here to press the buttons, okay?
All right, Teddy, I was just agreeing with you.
All right, I'm about to touch my face again. But no, the point about it, what I'm trying to say, is that like it's one of these cases, because I've actually been looking at the letter. I've been looking at a couple comparisons.
Yeah, let's bring it up.
Let's look at some things. I mean,
Teddy's done his own analysis.
Yeah, Donna, bring that up. Look up there.
Hold on a second. Okay.
No, not that. No, Donna.
All right.
There we go. Okay, so we're looking right now. We're looking at, there's a Ransom letter, which is just ridiculous. It's so big.
That's on the left, and then on the right is the sample that Patsy did for the police.
Yeah, she did a sample where she starts off kind of in like a more cursive, and then
they had to do that. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Wait, she decided to rewrite the whole thing.
No. They're asking for her sample, and so they had her do stuff where she wrote it in cursive. I believe they also did at some point have a switch up from left to right.
Donna, if you can't see out whatever your eyes, stop trying to look at this thing.
I don't have my glasses.
All right. Anyway, the point of the matter is that when you look at this, you can see a couple different things that honestly are nearly identical. So first and foremost, let's look at the letter Y. Okay, and I know that when if you're listening to this, you can't see this. Well, I'm gonna try to describe it the best I can. Okay, there are different types of ways that. Well, this is all the letters that are in the Ransom letter, like the actual alphabet letters. They are all written in multiple different ways.
Yes,
and
there's no consistency in that note.
There's no consistency in the sense that almost like if you see the letter D, the next time you see the letter D, it looks different than the last time you saw it.
Depending on how it's used. There is some consistency in like how, like, you know, if it's used at like the end of a word or something like that sometimes, or just like an A by itself versus like an A in the word.
And if you look at the letter Y, in towards the end, I'm gonna just go down to the bottom where it says, "It is up to you now, John. Victory, SBTC." Then when you look at "It's up to you," that now, John, that Y, that looks like it has starting from the top left quadrant, and then a tiny little slash, and then if you're in the top right quadrant, a longer slash that goes to the bottom left quadrant. So it's clearly two strokes. Yeah. Okay, that's almost like it's like an upside down TP with the penis on it.
Right, the right side was definitely made first.
But then if you look at the Y in the word victory, right before the exclamation point, that Y is not two strokes. That is instead, they're starting at the upper left quadrant, and then it's a little swoop. That thing goes to the top, unbroken in the top right quadrant, and then goes back down, and then has a little bit of almost like a little micro penis at the very bottom.
And
that goes towards the right.
That's what I mean in the way of how it's used differently throughout. Like it depends on the context. Because the U, that's the first letter. Victory, I think you get in more of like, it's almost like a cursive type thing.
It's almost like a cursive kind of Y. And it's different at the end of the letter. But then if you look at the sample thing, where Patsy writes in this last paragraph, "The day is lovely outside, and I hope that we will be finished so I can go. I miss darling Johnny B. She would have liked this day too. Love, Mommy." She's whatever. But in that last sentence, she says, "This day too," and the Y that's in day is exactly like the Y that's, and also the Y that's in Mommy. It's just like the Y that's in victory.
Yeah, wait, does she use Y at the beginning in the sample letter? Because that's important. Yes, my young. See? It is.
Where? Yeah.
Look, my young. Yeah. Whenever she starts a Y, it's the same. Remember the slants.
Oh, yeah.
But when she ends it, she
makes it more like a cursive Y.
Yeah.
So when she says, "It's up to you now, John," or when the Ransom writer wrote you, and that starts with a Y, that is the same way as when Patsy wrote young in the sample, but at the end of the word, it's a different kind of swoopy one motion instead of two strikes.
Yep, look at that. You. It's like you.
That's not even something that takes two different hands.
The letters look so heavy.
You. There's not one Y. Yeah, there isn't a Y that's like, you know.
That's fascinating.
Like you had to go over the letter multiple times, like too many times.
And it's like one of these things where I almost wish that they had done other people, like John or other people, to do handwriting samples
look at delivery too.
Because look at delivery.
I don't think it would have been necessary.
I mean, and this is the type of analysis and investigation that, frankly, we are putting to bed any of the ambiguity, any of the fog or the hustle that has created so much confusion or lack of resolution.
Yeah.
All right. And it's important.
If you're watching the videos, let us know what you think from looking at it too.
Yeah, we have amazing listeners. We've also got people who are not amazing listeners.
But they did get John handwriting samples.
They get John,
but it's not ones that need publicized because there's nobody.
It's probably one of those things where if you saw that sample, you would so clearly see that it is not the same handwriting. That to have these things next to one another.
John sample. Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the thing. Everybody's
they were all ruled out. They were all ruled out. Except for Patsy.
They were all ruled out.
But these look so similar. If they were connected, or if they
these
were
aren't just similar. Some of these letters are exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
And I have never heard until Bobby just brought it up how the placement of the letter in the word almost adds and dictates, and it's something I think we should keep looking in our off time. Right? I mean, I don't have a lot of data. Maybe if I can save this, but I don't have a lot of memory in my phone either because I have a lot of Pokemon porn. But the point being is that there's something to the placement of the letters in the word and reflexively or without even thinking, like author how they write that letter, and I see 2 out of 2, 3 out of 3. I mean, there's other letters in the words too that are very similar, and it's just one of those things where I think I can confidently say, I don't know who was the one that I don't know who hit JonBenét in the head. I don't know what that I haven't made up my mind just yet, but I can say without a doubt that Patsy Ramsey wrote this ransom letters.
Exactly.
She wrote the letter.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the John thing with him writing it, that's the other interesting part about this, because as we've talked about before, when the police were there collecting stuff, like Sergeant Whitson, a reference in his report too, when they were there, they were collecting samples and stuff, handwriting samples. John, if he had any idea that the ransom note was written on that pad, it seems silly that that's the pad he would turn over to the police as a sample. And then so again, the Sergeant Whitson, read his report, it's fascinating. Because he gives an account of, basically it sounds like he's the one that tipped off the DA what was happening. But they go back to the office to meet with the FBI while Linda Arndt's, stuck there. And we're going to get to that in a sec. But while they're there, again, they're sitting in a meeting, and then it gets, with the FBI, it gets interrupted by the guy that collected the evidence. And he tells the sergeant, he's like, hey, this pad that we collected has the sample letter.
Patsy's pad.
Yeah, the one that says Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey is written the same way.
The first draft was still in the pad. It hadn't been ripped out and crumbled up and thrown away. It was in the pad, and the sheet of paper was just lifted up or something.
And then everything basically changed there. Like Whitson's whole mindset, he even says in his report, immediately then I was suspecting the parents. And so what they were trying to do right then and there was they started working on getting warrants before they were going to go back to the Ramseys.
Warrant Cherry.
Exactly.
They were trying to get tickets to a concert.
No. They were trying to get warrants to search the house and stuff. But before any of that could take place, the call came through. Her body was found.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Indeed.
And remember, they had left Linda Arndt there as basically one of the sole people there.
Linda Arndt, not Lisa Arndt.
Yeah. Well, let's reintroduce her. She was there specifically for the deadline. She was there to handle the ransom call.
She looks a lot like Princess Di if she was sisters with Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
10 a.m., the deadline imposed by the writer of the ransom note for a telephone call.
10 o'clock comes and goes, and there's no acknowledgement within the house from anyone that the deadline imposed by the author of the ransom note has come and gone.
Which is just so crazy because there were so many people in the house at that time. By 10 a.m., there was the family, the Ramseys. There was, but not John Andrew Ramsey.
No.
And then there was also, and not Burke either, because he was over at the Fleet White House.
Yeah, Burke got out of there early.
He was being interrogated. He was being interviewed by a cop over at another house, probably without the Ramseys knowing.
They didn't know. And that's the thing is that, so Linda Arndt, and she talks about how that day she basically, just made sure she noted everything that seemed weirder and stuff that stuck out.
Make mental notes of all things curious, including, she says, the fact that Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey remained apart in separate rooms for most of the day. That at one point, she says John Ramsey took time out in the middle of the crisis to read his mail.
I think what's more interesting to note is that they're in separate rooms.
Separate rooms.
But they spent most of the time, separated.
Where was Patsy's?
Patsy spent most of the day she was in the sunroom.
The sunroom.
Which we'll put up a little graphic here.
That's where you make your sun chicken and your sun tea.
We'll put up a graphic of the blueprint of this. This is where Patsy sat all morning, okay? And then so this is the level of the house they're on. And now we're going to show you the basement level. And then we're going to go back to the first level. In the basement level.
Wait.
Are you noticing something here?
Wait a minute. So the sunroom's on the first floor, on the main floor.
Main floor.
And then the basement's underneath.
Mm-hmm. And then look at the blueprints. You seeing?
They're right.
above each other.
Oh my God, Donna, stop trying to look.
Patsy sat in the sunroom, by all accounts.
Right directly above.
Right above it. For
the
all that
wine
effort,
room.
Right above it.
Where JonBenét's body was pulled from around 1 p.m. that afternoon.
Exactly.
Wait a minute.
Like she was just listening. Like she was waiting to hear.
Like of all that big giant house and all the rooms she could have sat in, the
She was
sunroom.
sitting right above it. And it's a very little area. They just didn't know it. Didn't know.
Was she by herself in the sunroom?
No, she was being, comforted by friends.
So she had all these people. Patsy was distraught. Patsy, she was. We could maybe even say, if we were not to believe she was authentically feeling these emotions, she was performing to be almost like the distraught, devastated, and emotional mother of a missing daughter. And while these people are like, around her, they're rubbing her back and then maybe rubbing her feet. Maybe not my feet. I would rub her feet, but I wasn't there. And then, God, I would love to rub her feet. Anyway, but the point being is almost like, if one were to be in a house of a family where the daughter had been kidnapped and they were like, we need you here to help us, support us.
Yeah.
She's pulling all of them into the sunroom. The sunroom also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, I'm gonna look at that again. But the sunroom is also almost diametrically opposite from where the stairs to the basement are.
Yes.
It's almost like a diagonal.
Yes.
And so the way in which, like, if you were in the sunroom, you would have to cross the first floor all the way, because the house is like a big, almost, it's not like an L, but it's like a big old weird shape. And then you have to go into the basement, and then from the basement you have to go back in the direction where the sunroom was to get back into the wine room. So it's almost like one of those things where she's pulling people from the furthest point possible away from the wine room.
I don't even know if that was honestly the intention.
What do you mean?
I mean, in the way of like, I don't like, I think of it in a way of she was expecting possibly at some point the body to be found. I don't think she's trying to pull anybody away from it. I think it's a thing if she just wanted to know when a fucking cue was.
Oh, like if she was in the sunroom, she would have heard a door or something closing underneath, a vibration.
Someone's gonna find it, and I think it's just waiting to hear it.
Yeah. You can imagine they had hundreds of books in that house, okay? And it's amazing that they had so many books, and yet they didn't, they didn't support progressive policies. I mean, these people were probably like red-blooded conservatives. They're probably not fan of like non-white people, to be honest. No, I'm not gonna. But the point being is that you can imagine someone like her, who really didn't do a lot of housework, let's be honest.
Except for changing JonBenét's
She changed JonBenét's sheets. That was the only. Her housekeeper did all the other housework.
She wouldn't let the housekeeper change her sheets.
So what's this lady doing all the day? She's drinking Chardonnay, and she's probably reading her Patricia or Danielle Steele and whatever the fuck, Patricia Clarkson.
Like the fucking,
John Grisham's.
Yeah, John Grisham's.
She probably read about Da Vinci Code if that came out, But because it's one of those things where she probably sits in the sunroom and she reads a book or some shit like that. It's a place where when the kids are taking a nap, she can just like, flip a bean and shit. But like, it's one of those things where she is aware of like, oh, I know that I'm gonna hear things underneath me, and it's, and yet because for whatever reason, no police officer. So when the searching, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't look at me. Hold on. But it's one of those things where, because no one had found it yet, it's almost like she had to keep dragging on and on and on, like staying in the sunroom and waiting.
Oh yeah. Well, again, I think she was just until it was going to be found. So here is Patsy discussing that.
I went into the living room, and John was standing there with Linda Arndt, and JonBenét was lying on the floor, and he said that she was dead.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. Every time we hit that moment, I just get so emotional. I remember back when I first heard about all this. So
it's a lot, Teddy. I know.
Yeah. I mean, and Linda Arndt, she describes it as a pretty emotional scene as well.
Still alone in the living room with John Ramsey, Arndt then heard Patsy Ramsey's voice.
And I heard a wail, just a guttural moan, aching wail from the back area. It's probably one of the most pitiful things I've ever heard, and anguished. And I saw the rest of the people, the Patsy and the pastor and the 4 friends, come from the den towards the living room. So I said, if you want to say goodbye to JonBenét, This is the only time you'll have to do it. And, there's just so much. There's so much pain.
Oh my God. And Linda Arndt's not an emotional type of person.
No, she isn't. They moved that robot. That's crazy.
To see the fact that she's so moved as a robot type of person.
When just minutes earlier, you were also counting all of the bullets in your gun. Because she was suspicious that, the murderer was in the house. Like, she knew it. And she still maintains she did.
I mean, it must have been, what kind of whale do you think it was? Like a humpback?
Oh, no. Like a
sperm whale?
Jesus Christ. I swear to God.
Don't ever say sperm whale.
You're making her dumb. It's like a whale, like a sound, not like a fucking whale.
Oh, like a shout, like a scream, like a cry.
Like a maybe it is like a whale then. Maybe they based that off that.
I mean, I've heard some whales when if you punch a whale, like it's gonna make a sound.
Right. But yeah, back on track.
Anyway,
very emotional scene. And like again, Linda Arndt, she ended up also, resigning from the force too, because it was a thing of where she felt this was.
She was like, oh, you guys, because
and she's been vilified too, where it's like
really,
yeah, and then like so,
That's
final
right.
thoughts here with Linda Arndt.
And Linda Arndt remains convinced that she knows who killed JonBenét Ramsey. She will not say the killer's name, but has no doubt that justice will never be done.
Do you think this person will ever be indicted, will ever be charged or convicted?
No.
What you're saying is, whoever killed JonBenét will get away with murder.
Yes.
Wow.
She's got some wide eyes.
Like bug eyes,
I mean,
first of all.
It's just, I mean, she clearly doesn't know like how she's gonna look, but she still looks pretty good.
But that makes me trust her more.
It makes me.
It's less rehearsed than like if she had a PR people, they would be like, you got to stop doing that shit with your eyes.
Like it looks crazy. So
Yeah.
if you're doing that, then it seems more sincere.
And also, I mean, it's one of those things also where, I mean, definitely like it provides more of a contrast versus how the ways that we saw for decades, how the Ramseys would engage with the press versus how maybe a more regular person would. Someone who was never on a pageant stage or on national television or anything like that. In the sense that like, it just goes to show more and more of the performative nature of where they're trying to convince people. Linda Arndt's just trying to, because she didn't feel like she was being listened to, and because she doesn't even think that there will be justice served, she's just trying to get out her perspective, because for that period of time, she was the only cop in the house when the body was found.
Right.
And she had people, including the Ramseys, saying, Linda Arndt is an unreliable narrator. Linda Arndt is not a good person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And also that reporter, Elizabeth Vargas, she looks so fucking hot. She looks like that lady in Blank Check that kissed the boy. Back in the 90s, adults could...
Oh, we were totally... when I was a kid, I remember rooting for that kid to fuck that FBI agent.
I didn't see it as anything. I didn't see it as grooming or nothing. I saw it as like, wow, he's about to score this fucking brunette pone. And she looks a lot like her. Just
Like Macaulay Culkin.
Right.
Macaulay Culkin, Anna Paquin, Fly Away Home. Don't get us distracted. We're almost done with the episode.
So, and that's the
Shout
thing.
out, Donna.
So you actually gave a good lead into that, though.
Yeah.
You're talking about, the PR campaign and stuff. And we've discussed a lot of, how the Ramseys do that. But what we're really going to focus on in the next episode, because we're surprised, guys. We're giving you guys a part 3.
Oh my God! Yes, surprise, surprise! The abundance continues.
Because we're gonna look at now how they acted, after. All the shit they did, after the media interviews and what they tried to portray, and really get into the grand jury stuff and just...
Especially from the point of view of Patsy Ramsey. And that's the thing. We're going into this and we try to come up with a plan, but we are so moved and shocked and overwhelmed sometimes by the preponderance of evidence that isn't also being spoken about. That we sat down without Donna, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do part 3, because it's humiliating sometimes when you have to correct yourself in any way.
Well, this isn't correcting. This is just there's like a wealth of stuff here that we can mine from that we need to make sure we focus on all of it.
You're hearing it first. There's a part 3, Patsy Ramsey, and that's gonna be the next episode.
And the ransom note is, this is a very important episode because it's one of the keys. Because it's like, whatever you think, there's a thing. Somebody specifically wrote the ransom note, whether or not they were involved or not, and I think it's pretty obvious who did. So
it's a Roberta Stone where every time you look at the ransom note, when you learn even more stuff, you learn that there's even more to decipher from it. And I mean, honestly, it was one of those things where if you really want to be like a committed listener, you gotta take time. You gotta look at the ransom note for yourself and come back and talk to us. And maybe we'll give you a scrunchie. Maybe we'll get you a gift card for Princess Gifts. Join our Patreon. Keep following the mission. We are really cooking with gas right now. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 10 episodes, I mean, I don't know how long it's gonna take. And Donna, I think this may be your last episode because really, frankly, you kind of threw us off for a loop. But I just want to say, we are getting down to the wire. We are getting closer than ever before than anyone's ever gotten.
We're gonna prove Linda Hunt wrong. We're gonna get some justice. Justice
is here. In the year 2024, justice will be served.
All right. Well, I think that we got it. We good? You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Well, I'm Bobby Bablovsky.
And I'm Todét Ronald Reagan. This Mac here.
And this is
JonBenét Today.